University Press Audiobooks presents Rosa Parks, Civil Rights Leader, a Chelsea House title, written by Mary Hull, narrated by Darla Middlebrook. This audiobook is based on the legacy edition of the book published by Chelsea House Publishers, an imprint of Infobase Publishing. Chapter 1. The Straw That Broke the Camel's Back. Even for Montgomery, Alabama, where temperatures seldom fall below 40 degrees in the coldest months of winter, it was unusually hot on December 1st, 1955. It was nearly 5:30 p.m. when Rosa Parks put away the piles of new suits she was working on and left her job at the Montgomery Fair department store to board a bus for home. The petite, bespectacled woman had been raising and lowering hemlines, altering waistbands, and adjusting sleeve lengths all day at her job as a tailor's assistant in the alterations department of the store. The holiday season was the busiest time of year for store workers, and this afternoon she was tired and her shoulders ached from bending over her sewing machine. As Rosa walked the half-block from the department store to the bus stop at Court Square, passing beneath the city's Christmas decorations, she was thinking of all the work she still had to do at home that night. The square was decorated with red and green Christmas lights, and a large banner hung from one of the storefronts pronouncing, "Peace on Earth, Goodwill to Men." Court Square in Montgomery, Alabama, the cradle of the Confederacy, was a historic place. In 1861, Jefferson Davis's inauguration as President of the Confederacy had taken place there, and slave auctions had been held on the site before the Civil War. The 13th Amendment had outlawed slavery in 1865, but many white Southerners had never been able to regard blacks as their equals or even as citizens of the United States. Slavery was replaced by segregation, laws and practices mandating the exclusion of blacks from the rest of society. Under segregation, black children could not go to the same schools as white children, and blacks were not allowed to use the same public facilities as white people. Hotels, theaters, restaurants, lunch counters, sinks, bathrooms, water fountains, waiting rooms, libraries, parks, swimming pools, etc. Southern courtrooms even had separate colored and white Bibles to use when swearing in witnesses. Blacks were also not allowed the same access to public transportation as whites. As long as the separate facilities provided for blacks were equal to those provided for whites, the Supreme Court had ruled in 1896 in Plessy v. Ferguson, the states were free to enact these so-called Jim Crow laws. Of course, in practice, black facilities were never equal, and segregation served exactly the purpose that its creators intended, to reinforce the constant message that blacks were second-class citizens. Knowing her place. When the Cleveland Avenue bus pulled over to its stop at Court Square on that warm Thursday afternoon in 1955, Rosa Parks noticed that there were passengers standing inside, so she let the bus pass her by with the hope that the next one would be less crowded. While she waited for it to come along, she crossed the street and did some shopping. When she returned to the square with her shopping bag, another Cleveland Avenue bus stopped. Since no one appeared to be standing inside, she paid the 10-cent fare, boarded, and sat down in the first vacant seat she saw, the 11th seat back on the aisle, immediately behind the whites-only section of the bus. A black man occupied the window seat to her right. 2 black women sat in the seats across the aisle to her left. The first 10 seats of every Montgomery City bus were reserved for white people only. Even if, as frequently happened, the bus was filled with only black passengers to the extent that people were standing in the aisles, blacks were not to use these seats. This differed from the practice in most other southern cities, where blacks would fill seats from the rear forward and whites from the front back. If no white passengers boarded on a particular route, blacks could occupy every seat on the bus. Under the letter of the Montgomery City law, blacks could sit anywhere behind this whites-only section. They could be compelled to surrender their seat for a white passenger only if another was available in the black section. Alabama state law, however, gave bus drivers virtually unlimited discretion in enforcing segregation on their buses, and black passengers in Montgomery were frequently ordered to stand at the rear of the bus to make way for white passengers once the whites-only section was filled to capacity.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?